What happens when 5,000 years of history leaves its mark? When the ghosts of emperors, concubines, and forgotten soldiers refuse to fade away? China, the Middle Kingdom, a land of breathtaking landscapes and ancient dynasties. But beneath the surface of its modern marvels and historic splendor lies a hidden world. A world steeped in folklore, ancestral reverence, and a profound belief that the spirits of the past walk among us. Tonight, we journey into that world. We will peel back the veil and explore 10 of the most paranormally active locations in the entire nation. From imperial palaces soaked in blood to lonely roads with deadly secrets. These are the places where the dead do not rest. These are China's top 10 most haunted places. Coming in at number 10. The Great Wall of China, a wonder of the world, a symbol of strength and endurance. But it's also known by another name, the longest cemetery on Earth. During its construction, over centuries, millions of conscripted laborers and soldiers perished from exhaustion, disease, and brutal accidents. It's said their bodies were buried within the wall itself, their bones and souls becoming part of the foundation. Today, visitors and guards patrolling the ancient ramparts report hearing the ghostly sounds of a legion that never left. The eerie echo of marching footsteps on empty sections, the faint cries of agony carried on the wind, and the sight of shadowy figures in ancient military attire, still standing watch in the crumbling towers. But the most disturbing claim is far more violent. Tourists hiking alone on desolate, unrestored sections at dusk have reported a sudden forceful shove from behind, coming from an unseen entity. They stumble forward, catching themselves just inches from a steep, deadly drop, as if the ghostly builders are jealously and violently guarding their own tomb. Number 9 takes us to the bustling metropolis of Shanghai in the Wukang Mansion, an architectural marvel in the city's former French concession. Its unique shape has earned it a grim nickname, the diving board. The name is a chilling reference to its dark history. During the Cultural Revolution, many of the building's high society residents and intellectuals were publicly persecuted. Unable to bear the torture and humiliation, they chose a final, desperate escape, leaping from the building's roof. Residents today still speak of disembodied screams, echoing in the night, and ghostly apparitions that flicker in the hallways. But the most terrifying sighting is a horrific spectral reenactment. Witnesses looking up from the street below claim to see the clear silhouette of a person standing on the very edge of the roof. The figure hesitates for a moment, then leaps, vanishing into thin air just before it would have hit the ground, forcing those below to witness the ghostly trauma over and over again. Our 8th location is in Hong Kong, the infamous High Street Ghost House. What began as quarters for nursing staff in 1892 devolved into a place of nightmare. During World War II, it was allegedly seized by Japanese forces and used as an execution hall. Afterwards, it was converted into a mental asylum where tales of mistreatment and suffering festered. After being ravaged by fires, the building stood derelict for decades, its terrifying reputation growing with each passing year. Locals have long told stories of hearing the heart-wrenching cries of women from within the empty building and seeing headless ghosts wandering the dark corridors. One group of teenagers exploring the ruins in the 1990s claimed they came face to face with one. It was a floating, headless spirit in a traditional robe, drifting silently towards them. As they fled in absolute terror, one swore he heard a gurgling, wet laugh echo from behind them, from where a head should have been. At number 7, we visit the Huguan Guildhall in Beijing. This historic 200-year-old opera house is built upon an ancient graveyard, and it is home to a ghost that is more unsettling than aggressive. The legend says a wronged official took his own life on this land, and the theater was built to placate his spirit with lively shows, but he still makes his presence known. The most common report is of a disembodied voice. They say if you throw a small stone into the empty courtyard, you will hear a voice scold you from nowhere. And its most disturbing trick is its mastery of sound. A security guard, alone in the center of the courtyard, heard a clear, angry whisper directly in his right ear. "Get out." He spun around to find no one. As he walked away, he heard the same whisper in his left ear, and then felt an ice-cold breath on the back of his neck. The ghost was toying with him, proving it was everywhere at once. Number 6 is a warning to those who walk alone at night. Welcome to Qiu Shuishan Park in Shenzhen. Here, the legend is explicitly deadly. It centers on the ghost of a woman in a red dress, said to have died in a horrific accident at the park, or perhaps murdered by her lover on its suspension bridge. Now, she wanders the park, seeking company or revenge. Men walking alone have reported being mesmerized by the sight of a beautiful woman in red, beckoning them to follow her towards the lake. The most violent version of this story comes from a supposed lone survivor. He claimed that as he reached for the woman at the lake's edge, her face rotted before his eyes, twisting into the bloated visage of a drowned corpse. She lunged at him, trying to pull him into the water with inhuman strength. He escaped, but local police files reportedly contain several unsolved cases of men found drowned in that same shallow lake. Coming in at number 5 is a place of learning and of loss, the Songpo Library in Beijing. This library was once the residence of Wu Sangui, the infamous Ming Dynasty general whose actions led to the fall of his empire. The story says he did it all for his beautiful concubine, Chen Yuanyuan, who had been kidnapped. But his betrayal came too late, and in her despair, she is said to have hanged herself right here. Her tragic spirit remains. Patrons and staff report seeing the faint, weeping apparition of a woman in traditional Ming attire, drifting through the halls and gardens, forever searching. The most terrifying encounter was reported by a librarian working late. Hearing sobs from a reading nook, she went to investigate and saw the woman in historical dress. When the librarian called out, the figure turned, revealing a face with no features, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth, pale skin that looked at her for a heart-stopping second before dissolving into mist. Our 4th most haunted location is perhaps the most famous address in all of China, the Forbidden City. For 500 years, this was a sealed world of absolute power and absolute cruelty. It was a golden cage for thousands of concubines and eunuchs, a place where jealousy, betrayal, and murder were commonplace. With public access forbidden, the souls of those who died tragically within its walls were trapped. The palace supposedly becomes so active at night that it closes to the public before sunset. Guards have long spoken of a woman in white who walks the palace grounds, sobbing. But the most disturbing claim comes from a guard in the 1990s. He saw what looked like a procession of ghostly eunuchs, carrying a covered palanquin. Thinking they were movie extras, he shouted at them. The lead eunuch turned, his face deathly pale, his eyes burning with pure hatred. And then, from under the palanquin's cover, a single bloody hand flopped out and dangled lifelessly, before the entire procession faded into the solid red wall beside them. Number 3 is a place of serene beauty and shocking violence. Bride's Pool in Hong Kong. The legend is a tragic one. A bride, being carried in a sedan chair to her wedding, was plunged into the pool below when her porters slipped on wet rocks. Weighed down by her heavy ceremonial dress, she drowned. Today, her spirit remains, forever waiting. But she is not a peaceful spirit. This location is a notorious accident black spot, and many believe the bride is responsible. The most violent and deadly accounts involve direct physical attacks. One swimmer reported feeling an ice-cold, impossibly strong grip wrap around his ankle. He was violently yanked underwater. He kicked wildly, feeling his foot connect with something he described as slimy and bony. The grip released, and he scrambled to safety, convinced the lonely bride had tried to drown him, to make him her groom in the afterlife. At number 2, we return to the Great Wall, but this time to a specific section inside the Great Wall Museum. This haunting is born from one of China's most famous folktales, the story of Meng Jiang. When her husband died building the wall, she journeyed thousands of miles to find him. Arriving at the wall, she wept for 3 days and nights, her sorrow so immense that it caused a section of the wall to collapse, revealing his bones. Inside the museum, a piece of that original wall is preserved behind glass, and from it, staff and visitors have reported hearing a woman's heartbreaking sobs. The most terrifying encounter here is not visual, but purely psychological. A visitor standing before the wall was suddenly crippled by a wave of grief so profound he collapsed to his knees, sobbing for a loss that wasn't his. He said it felt like the ghost had poured her centuries of sorrow directly into his soul, an agony so powerful it was physically debilitating. And now, at number 1, the undisputed king of haunted places in China, a location so terrifying it inspired a blockbuster horror film, Shanghai number 81, in Beijing. This dilapidated French Baroque mansion is the stuff of nightmares. The legend says it was the home of a high-ranking official's wife. When the communists advanced on the city in 1949, the official fled to Taiwan, abandoning her. Alone and in despair, she hanged herself from the rafters of their magnificent home. For decades, the house stood empty, a beacon for thrill-seekers. Before it was renovated, a group of them broke in. A sudden gust of wind slammed the heavy door shut, plunging them into darkness. When they got a flashlight working, they pointed it up. In the beam, they all saw her. The clear figure of a woman in white, hanging from a rope, swaying gently. As they stood frozen, her head allegedly snapped upright, her eyes shot open, and a silent scream contorted her face before the entire vision vanished into thin air. From ancient walls to abandoned mansions, the spirits of China's past linger. They are echoes of love, betrayal, sorrow, and violence, etched into the very fabric of the nation. Are these merely stories, passed down through generations to scare and to warn? Or are there truly places where the veil between our world and the next is so thin you can hear the whispers of the dead? The next time you walk through a place with a long history, listen closely. You may not be as alone as you think.